All right. This is Mapper Interviews of TF2Maps.net. I am the host, the interviewer, Egan. I'm a TF2Maps.net admin. I'm here with Heyo, otherwise known as Sean Catino. And he actually likes being called Sean more instead of Heyo, so I'm going to refer to him as Sean throughout the interview. And Sean has made Capture Point Junction, Capture Point Egypt, King of the Hill Harvest, and he's also the creator of Payload Borneo, which is a pretty popular map nowadays. So,
Hello.
Yeah, hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a nervous kind of wreck, but I'm good. All right. So, what originally made you want to get into level design?
I think I've always just enjoyed creating worlds. At least drawing them. That's what I did before level design. Drawing buildings and stuff.
Was there something specific that influenced you?
I used to always want to be an Imagineer at Disney. You know, the people who design the rides?
I knew that was a job, but I didn't know that's what they're called, but okay.
Yep, that's what they're called. I went to Disney a lot when I was young. I lived in Florida, so that influenced me a lot. One of my first maps was actually I recreated the whole Tower of Terror, the ride.
Yeah, I looked you up on Game Banana like 2 hours ago just to make sure that I wasn't missing out on any maps, because I was going to ask you about your history before TF2, and then it shows that you made Gary's Mod, Counter-Strike Source, and Half-Life 2 Deathmatch maps, and that was one of them.
Yep.
And actually, I have a question based on those maps and kind of your transition into TF2. I wonder, is part of the reason why you moved to Team Fortress 2 from those games because you had the possibility of becoming one of the first, really nicely themed custom maps for TF2?
Well, I didn't really think about that. I just have always enjoyed doing themes, and TF2 was just a new game to work for. I never really liked the gameplay of other games as much as I liked Team Fortress 2, so that was most of my motivation to make maps for TF2. Counter-Strike, I don't really like too much. I was just doing it because it was something to make maps for, I guess. But TF2, I really love the gameplay. And I guess my philosophy of making a new map is I always want to do a new theme. I want to give it a new look to make it stand out, which differs from many other mappers who just want to, a lot of the time, work with existing themes.
Yeah, or maybe there's other mappers that are more gameplay focused, that want to,
Yeah.
or maybe even kind of in the same mindset where they always want to get new gameplay experiences, but maybe don't care too much about the details later on. I don't know.
Yep. I used to think more about the theme than the gameplay, it feels like, when I was making my original TF2 maps.
It does kind of seem that way in retrospect.
Yeah. But I think I've improved a lot since then.
All right, so your first map, I guess, because you actually had two maps that were released at the start. You had Capture Point Junction and Capture Point Egypt, both in the February 24, 2009 Scout update. So I guess let's just talk about Junction first, because you made Junction first, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, what inspired you to make Junction?
I guess I really wanted to do I love the 1950s or 60s futuristic retro style, and I really wanted to make my own map out of that. And I just entirely focused on that as the theme rather than any kind of exterior location. I just love the angled pillars and all that,
Yeah, that comes to my mind too.
the James Bond secret facility style. So that's what I was trying to do.
Throughout the years since Junction's release, because the game has changed a lot and it's added a lot of weapons that change the gameplay, the map has gotten a lot of unfavorable reviews, and I'm sure you've heard of that. So, what's your opinion of Junction nowadays?
Well, I'd do it a lot differently if I redid it, but it really is meant for small amounts of players. I was playtesting with pretty low player counts, like 6 versus 6 or so. And playing it with 20 plus, I think it Like, it's really small spaces. It's not going to play too well. It's going to be really choky.
Were you kind of surprised then when it got in game and you're like, oh no?
At the time, I figured maybe people would just play it on lower player counts. I hope they would, but I guess people don't really enjoy that style of TF2. It was still early in TF2's. How soon was it after TF2 was released? I think it was like a year.
Yeah, Scout update was February 24, 2009.
Yeah, but TF2 really got. I think everybody just got used to playing high player count. That's what people really like. I always enjoy low player count in TF2. Personally, it just feels a bit chaotic when you get too many people. It feels kind of spammy to me.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people like about it. When I was playing Halo 2 on the Xbox, I was way more in favor of the big team battles and stuff. I guess just because it was easier to find opponents, even if I wasn't very good at the game. And I guess that's because TF2 is a free to play game, and that's probably what a lot of newer players are also drawn towards.
Yeah, people like the community feeling, I guess, they have when they're playing on a big all-talk server and everyone's talking, just having a good time.
Looking at Capture Point Egypt now, what inspired you to make that map?
Well, I was trying to think of what kind of a theme I could do that would fit with TF2 and be different enough that it would really stand out and get popular just because it looks really cool. And I figured I could do an Egyptian theme. I'd seen Egyptian theme maps before, but they didn't really work within the TF2 style. And I wanted to try to make it really fit in that impressionistic style, kind of cartoony look. So I set out making a bunch of, like, all the textures for it that could be applied to buildings of many different shapes. Yeah, that's about it. I wanted to do an attack defend map to see what that would be like a Dust Bowl style. Yeah, whenever I do a new map, I usually want to try something new, gameplay wise and theme wise, to challenge myself.
And you were mentioning earlier when you were looking at my map how the palm tree models in Egypt were some of your first models. Were the Egypt textures some of your first textures as well?
Yeah, they were some of my first textures. I think I'd work in Photoshop more before. And of course, I made a lot of models not for TF2 before I made those palm trees.
How were things when you first heard that both Junction and Egypt were going to be in the game?
These were actually at different times. Like, originally Junction was going to be in the Pyro update, I think. But I wasn't 18, so I couldn't sign the contract. So that got delayed to be when they wanted Egypt as well, because I turned 18 later that year.
And how did Valve contact you about having both of your maps in game? Because I talked to Icarus last Mapper interview, and he mentioned how he contacted them after the map was done, and they said that they had already playtested the map and they were interested in contacting him. So was it something similar for you?
They just contacted me. I never tried to contact them.
Alright, talking about Harvest now. I've heard that Harvest was originally an arena map.
Yep, Arena's probably my favorite mode, but it never really got popular, so.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, actually. And apparently they removed it off the quick play, which kind of stinks because I made an arena map.
Yeah, Arena's really fun and it breaks it down. Like, see, that's why I like small player counts. It really leads to planned actions and no chaos, no spam.
Actually, I'm gonna break the coolness of interviews where the interviewer doesn't really talk that much, but I'm gonna do a quick shout out to ArenaFortress. They play custom arena maps, and I'll give you a link, Heyo, because I think you'll like it if you ever play TF2 nowadays.
Yeah, I'll play Arena every once in a while.
So a guy named Strickmatic, he asks, have you ever thought about redoing the spawns on Harvest? For instance, they suffer from the spawn camping on the roof, they have narrow exits, and they line up with the middle of the map.
At this point, I kind of feel like people are so used to Harvest. If I redid the whole spawn, I think a lot of people would be more mad than the people who would be happy because of the ending of the spawn camping. So I kind of wanted to keep it as it was. I mean, it's my most popular map right now.
A guy named This Name Is Too Long to F, which I think is clean to say on an interview, asks, what would you have changed if you had been designing it as a 12v12 King of the Hill map from the start?
Well, the spawn thing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the spawn thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else. I mean, I think it was successful in the way it really doesn't have any choke points, so it feels really different compared to other maps. And I think people like that. Feels like, I guess, kind of like a deathmatch map. You can go wherever you want because there's no hard battle line, basically. The spot you can't go because of a sentry guarding it or something.
And that was actually raised up a lot in the questions too. A guy named Gigabyte22 says that Harvest is one of his favorite maps for rocket jumping and pogoing, and he wonders the roof portions of the map, were those designed to help rocket jumpers? And I mean, I know that they're easy to get onto, but he wonders if, because they look like half pipes, if they were designed specifically just for rocket jumpers between them, I guess.
I didn't really think about that when I was making the roofs. I just wanted to, I guess the way that they're angled like a triangle, just a nice way to block off visibility between the two sides of the roof. So you can have one area of roof and another, two sides. And also, just the whole idea of being able to go on the roofs in a TF2 map like that uh, was to add to the feeling of openness of it, of lack of choke points. Because that's what I was going for when I designed it. Just a fun, really open space where you feel really free. Like most TF2 maps, you can't go on the roofs. Like Dust Bowl, it feels like there's tons of roofs that are just closed off to you. They're really low. And I wanted to see how it would feel with a lot of freedom.
Because you based this map off an arena map, a guy named Phantasmos, and he's actually a user on tf2maps.net as well, asks, did you expect Harvest to be such a success, even though the King of the Hill layout was completely different from anything at the time?
I didn't really expect it, but I can see now how it worked. Like you have all those maps that aren't really detailed, like Orange X. Those maps, they operate on the same kind of feelings, I guess. People really enjoy that open space. I mean, I'm not a fan of Orange X, but it has a bit of the same feeling that I tried to incorporate in Harvest, and it's really popular too.
Phantasmos also asks, what do you think about other maps that use the Egypt assets like Lakeside?
I think that's just great. It was 3DNJ who made that, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, he did a really good job using the theme. He took it in new directions. Like most people using a theme, they'll just copy paste stuff you did, but he really reinterpreted it. He made new structures out of it. He was really creative with it.
Yeah, I'm a super big fan of how he did like the center big building, how like the top like 10% of the building is actually 3D skybox. Like, oh man, that's so cool.
Yep, that's a cool trick you can do.
A guy named Cryptic5 asks, as you make your maps, do you imagine specific gameplay scenarios that would occur at various points?
I don't know about specific scenarios, but I imagine a general theme for gameplay I'm going for. As I said with Harvest, it was the lack of choke points. My map CP title, which is a 5 CP map, I was really going for more of the lack of choke points and really open spaces, but applied to a capture point map. And I wanted to evoke similar feelings to maps like Well or Granary. Granary is probably my favorite map for TF2, where it really feels like you have a lot of open space. And I wanted, but more so than Granary or Well, I wanted separate planes of like high ground and low ground. with like rooftops, switching to streets. I just like that difference in height. It's really fun to rocket jump over.
Evidently, a lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah, and like Scout jumping around. Scout's probably my favorite class. Jumping across rooftops is just like a lot of fun over gaps.
A guy named Rice Ninja 98 from Reddit wonders, is the Valve money you receive from your maps able to sustain you? Is it enough to make a living, or do you need another part-time or full-time job?
I think I need to get like another job to really make a living off it. It's not that much. At least part time.
I guess without being totally specific, what kind of scale of money did you receive?
Like anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 a month.
Ever since then?
Yeah, it's gone up and it's gone down. I think before they added, what is it, those kill counter things on a map, it was lower. It was like 500 a month, $500. But then it went way up.
To be honest, I wasn't sure if those actually made any money, but cool, that is cool. So, with Borneo, a guy named Fubar from tf2maps.net asks, how's it going with Payload Borneo and the UGC testing?
It's going pretty well. I keep updating it based on how it plays in competitive. It's really nice to do competitive play testing. You really get a lot of feedback doing that, and they really put it like they play it as. I mean, they play so well that you know that you're getting good feedback. It's not just people not really paying attention to the game, just AFK in the mind playing, where you can't really tell if it's your map's problem or if it's just people weren't trying hard enough.
That's actually a good observation to make, because I'm, to be honest, I'm a little bit guilty, because I do game days for tf2maps.net every Saturday, and there's been a few times where we'll test an A1 of a map, and I'll get to a point where I'm not really thinking about the decisions. I'm just kind of holding W and not really thinking where I'm going. And so, yeah, I can understand how that could lead to misleading feedback. And maybe I'll change that up sometime.
Have some kind of incentive to make people really want to win. Like the fact that they're playing in a scrim when it comes to competitive testing makes people really want to win just for the fun of it.
That gives me an idea. Maybe we should have like little events during the testing.
Or maybe have like a tournament across play testing maps. Could be interesting.
Or yeah, across like a game day. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game day or something. That sounds cool. Thank you for the idea.
You're welcome.
Do you see a point where Borneo would be complete? Because I know you've been updating it over the period of like 18 months or something.
I guess when competitive people are happy with it, I'd say it's complete. But there's still a few issues. It's mostly finished, though, I'd say.
How do you view the maps that use the jungle textures as well? Because you released those jungle textures and assets, like the models and the sprites and things, to the public before your map got in game. And how does it make you feel, I guess, looking at maps that have the potential to get in game before Borneo?
Oh yeah, that'd still be fine. Like, it's using my theme. I'd be happy with that. I think there's only been like one map released and finished with the theme. King of the Hill Brazil by Ravage.
I think there's another King of the Hill map by Fi, but yeah, I think it's called King of the Hill Canopy, for those wondering.
I'm not sure if I've seen that. I'll have to look it up. But from what I've seen, Ravage did a really good job on that. Took the theme in really new directions, like rolling hills with trees off into the distance. And a really cool satellite.
What do you think is the most important lesson that can be learned about level design? Or perhaps if there's something that you've learned that you just want to talk about?
A really important thing to do when you're making it, like one of your first maps, is you need to be realistic about your goals for the map. Like, a lot of people start maps that they don't finish. And I think that's a problem everyone has to get past when they're beginning. I mean, not when you're when you're first beginning, just make a bunch of practice maps. But when you really want to make a map, I think you got to commit to it, and you have to have a plan, and don't be too ambitious about it. You have to be dedicated to get it done, because otherwise, if you just make something on a whim, like a bunch of details, then it's probably never going to make it into a real map. So get used to the process of starting with dev textures that you have a bigger plan for later and how you're going to detail. I think that's the best advice to have.
Do you think you'll make another Team Fortress 2 map beyond Borneo?
I think I'm kind of done with TF2 mapping. Like, I feel like the gameplay's been fully explored. There's not much else I can think to do, gameplay-wise. And team-wise, I just want to do something new, I guess. I want to challenge myself in new ways. And maybe a new game. I don't know. I've been working on programming recently. Maybe I can do my own game at some point and make maps for that.
Do you have any ideas, just maybe not specifically, but kind of vague ideas of things that deeply interest you that you'd like to make a game out of?
Well, Dota 2 has really inspired me over the past few years. I've been playing that a lot. So I'd want to do something multiplayer for sure. I love thinking about how to incentivize players to do certain things in the game. And I love the creativity of Dota, the way you combine heroes. So something like that. I've been playing around with making little game modes for Gary's mod. That's a really nice platform to work on because it's so high level. They have all the functions made for you. It's kind of limited, but it's nice to prototype game ideas. The Lua scripting for Gary's mod.
Well, that's cool, and that's kind of convenient because I'm thinking about getting into that as well.
Yeah, I actually released a game mode for Gary's mod recently called Tactical Tool Game. It's kind of inspired by Dota, Counter-Strike, and TF2 all in one.
Do you have a place that we can go find that?
Yeah. You want the link to the post?
Yeah, sure, and I'll put it in the description of the video.
Alright.
Okay. And you've already mentioned that Granary, Well, and Harvest were some of your favorite maps. Or Harvest was the favorite map that you've made. And, or maybe you didn't, but Sean mentioned that last night in the game day that we had of his maps. I'm not sure if you mentioned in the interview.
I'd say actually, thinking about it more, Harvest is my most successful map. But I think my favorite map I made was Tidal. I mean, that's my favorite to play of mine.
What are some of your favorite maps, and why, that you haven't listed already?
My favorite maps that I haven't listed, I guess, I really like Badwater. It's really successful in basically appealing to both competitive crowd and public crowd. So I really just admire how Badwater works and just the openness of it all. How it manages to be such a fun experience without having any kind of choke points. I mean, it has choke points, but it just feels like there's a lot of open space to run around it. For a payload map, you usually don't get that. And Gravel Pit, similar reasons. I really like the way that you have to choose between 2 points to go to at the beginning. It adds to that feeling of freedom within the map, contrasting maps like Dust Bowl where you really have to go one direction and there's a harsh choke point. I think I'm a fan of open spaces more than that kind of map.
Do you have any shoutouts that you'd like to give? Maybe some people that you feel have worked super hard but haven't gotten really that respect that they deserve?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Ravage. He's one of the best at detailing, I think. Look his maps up. Oh yeah, there's Rexy. Is he still active on TF2 maps?
I think he got a job, so he's not allowed to be active with us anymore.
I remember he was really good. What was his one, that crystal map?
Zincanite.
Yeah, that was a really cool map that was underrated, I think. But it's a lot of fun. And really well detailed.
Yeah. I just nod. Yep. Alright. Well, thank you, Sean. Heyo Catino. Or wait. Thank you, Sean Catino, or otherwise known as Heyo, for joining me on episode 2 of Mapper Interviews.
Yeah, no problem.
Alright, so if any of you listening want to play any of Sean's maps, I'm gonna post the names of all of them in the description. And also, you can go to tf2stats.net. Supposedly, it's not up to date, but you can go to tf2stats.net and you can type in the map search, all his map names, like title, if you wanted to play title, and you can see any server that still plays them. Alright, thank you again.
Well,